We wanted to look for really interesting spaces to try and commission artists to make new projects. Commissioning public art is quite it's quite hard to get a balance right of just coming into someone's home area and dumping something there, and having a project which is really interesting and engages not just with the artist's practice, but with who lives in that area and why it should be there. What Loco wanted were projects that really directly dealt with people who live here and didn't alienate people. So, I mean, if we came and put a kind of a huge sculpture in this area, you know, what does that mean to people who live in the surrounding blocks? Like, will they give a shit? You know, it's really like about engaging. So the engagement factor in this is that whilst the works don't relate directly to the community, the building has been here and closed since 1987. We wanted to kind of open that up. This is just a tiny section of it that's open at the moment, but it's such an amazing building. It's a kind of it's an Art Deco building, so architecturally it's really interesting. A lot of people have come by to see the architecture as well as the work.
It was closed for a reason. I've lived around here, but I always wondered, I was young, what's this place used to be? No, I saw it. It's a giant bath. It looks so huge, but it looks good.
Anthea Hamilton and Nick Byrne came up with this this idea of using inflatable sculptures. So partly they've got a kind of a relationship with the baths, almost as like an in-joke about pool inflatables. But then they were able to make really large-scale sculptures that have a really big impact that perhaps you wouldn't be able to make in kind of standard materials.
Nice. Brought me back to my childhood. It was really scary, quite claustrophobic, but a bit of fun at the same time.
I'm interested in finding an artist who's really interesting and starting it from before the work's even made. So going to the studio and saying, this is really amazing, let's do something, and then working out what that can be, which is maybe sometimes more risky, but I think it yields bigger and better rewards.
So do you work with emerging artists? Do you have to apply through you for you to come and see the work?
No, I mean, the way it works is, I guess it's a bit of a slower process, but what usually happens is I see a lot of shows, or as many as I can, and then from that, if I see something that's interesting, then I would approach the artist. And that seems like a really hard way. Sometimes if you're an artist, I think that seems really difficult or frustrating, but actually, if you're interesting and good, there's like a curator for you somewhere who'll find the work. I do get a lot of emails and things, always look at things, but that's not the best way of it working. The best way of it working is to make and to do, and even if you only exist on a Tumblr, or if you're an artist and you find an empty shop and the guy lets you use it for a week, or, you know, that's how everyone starts. That's how I started as well, like putting shows on really, really small spaces. And there are lots of things like residencies and opportunities that come up on, you know, if you search online or artist newsletter, they come through a lot, and you just apply for these things, and it happens. Slowly, but it does.
I think the art in there would be good for another area which was more into art, but this area, which the building would remind them of just how run down the area is.
That was something I've never seen before, and I thought that was really interesting, and it sort of worked as well, but then I was unsure whether or not you would actually like see that as art. That's just my own feelings.
I liked the love box thing because it was really funny, because you think it's quite high up the ceiling but it's not, and then when you go in it's just really fun to bounce around and watch the animation in there. And I really liked the inflatable heliums, because I thought that was really interesting how they floated around in the air and you could pull them down the stream.